whatever day you're watching this. If you're new to the show, welcome. So, this is a live show. Things sometimes aren't really, well, they're never scripted. I might have a topic that I'll typically talk about on the front end of these shows, but really, I've got so many different things that I wanted to talk about that I really can't land on one. So, I guess customarily it would be open chat, but I mean, you get the idea. It's basically a live channel show today. So it doesn't have to even be about cars. I mean, basically, whatever y'all want to chat about, let's hang out, let's do this. It's a short show tonight. So just going to throw that out there. I will be putting together a new video, just me talking about the new six-pack charger. So there's that. I've been working a lot on the truck today, so there's that. There is a new lawnmower in the family. You know I got to be talking about that. That piece of dog shit Honda finally just literally gave up the ghost today. So there's a lot of stuff coming, but oddly enough, not a lot of car content. I mean, there's F-150 content that I'm putting out there, and I will be talking about whatever is worth talking about in terms of what's coming from Dodge. But the reality is that there's just so little that I can just sink my teeth into right now. So in the meantime, I'm having fun working on the almost said Dodge, working on the F-150. Recently, I've lowered the rear end of it. I have put some fender liners in it. What else have I done? Oh, it got its first oil change today too. So that's all good stuff and it's all fun. So I am enjoying that truck a lot more than I really should. And I will be doing a bit of my thoughts on that truck, a little bit of a deeper dive once I get it. In fact, it's actually ready to do it now. I wanted to get the truck looking right first and sounding right, and all of that is done. That's a wrap on that truck. The wheels and tires thing is going to have to come at a point way later because I went way over budget buying that truck. But hey, it's a lot less than a TRX, and the upside to it is that if I want to make it really fast, at some point down the line, I mean, that truck is just it's everything's money away, but it doesn't take a lot to get an F-150 to run, well, Hellcat embarrassingly fast numbers. So there's that. Now, with all of that being said, the reason why I'm having such a hard time talking about the Dodge stuff is because it was so heavily laden with EV that I need to let that video grow some legs and kind of run a little bit before I start talking about the six-pack car. But I will say, as a bit of a sneak peek for you guys, if I were to buy another performance car, it would be the six-pack car would be at the top of my list as far as what I would buy. And I say that because it's all-wheel drive. Without the all-wheel drive, though, I don't know, man. See, the thing is that in this day and age, with so many drag strips shutting down and the Dragy being the default method for data acquisition, is that a nice way to put it? You need something all-wheel drive. Having something that is relying on a set of tires that really kind of suck to live with day in and day out on the street, man, it makes it tough to make the argument that another Scat Pack or another this car or that car would make for a better car than what that new Charger is going to be. So if I were to get one, it would be the HO Charger. Now, with that being said, there's a lot to be said about where the Mustang is, and it is nasty fast. Guys, I'm sorry to tell you, but the new Mustang is on a whole different plane than even the outgoing Scat Pack is on, in terms of not only just performance out of the box. A lot of that has to do with weight. Horsepower, yeah, but weight is a different thing. But what is the main horrible takeaway for this for Dodge is that the Mustang's the last thing with a V8. It's just that it's not going to be able to hook the way that the six-pack car is going to be able to hook. And that thing in all-wheel drive, it's going to be spooky what that thing will do on the street. So it gets a lot of love for me in that way. The other way that it gets a lot of love for me is the fact that it really is hearkening to some Cold War kid nostalgia for me. The Charger name, even as much as I don't like it, the Charger name though can still hold a little bit of 80s style nostalgia. If we're talking about maybe like I don't know, if you can blend it in with maybe a Daytona nameplate or something like that, just that level of nostalgia will get to me. But as far as me being a player, I'm probably about 4 or 5 years away from really taking that car seriously. I think that there are going to be some updated, upgraded versions of that car that are going to come at about the midlife cycle year of that car that are going to make it really cool. So at that point, I might be a player, but early adopting, probably not, because I don't. There's a couple of things. One, the operating system just hasn't been cracked yet. So even picking up one of the cars and throwing it on a draggy and whatever, that's not going to do a lot of good. I mean, you can go do that on a test drive, right? So, in fact, I did that with Stormy. Anyway, but I have to admit, guys, I don't know that there's going to be enough. Well, let me ask you, is there enough goodwill in the bank right now with Mopar to be able to even talk about the six-pack car in that, I guess, in that light? Because everything that's cool about the six-pack cars, for some reason, somehow has also got the yang of its yin getting pissed on by the EV cars. So I get it. It's a Stellantis thing. And again, I love the idea of a 6-cylinder twin-turbo hot rod. I'm a huge fan of inline six cars. So it's going to be hard for me to be all rah-rah, V8, whatever. I don't care what power plant is in the thing, provided that it provides power in a fun and entertaining and a reliable way and in big chunks. But for you guys and to kind of go a little bit off topic, but not necessarily much, still talking about the Hurricane 6. Guys, there's a reason why, though, I am a little bit, just a bit shy on the Hurricane 6. And that is the specific output numbers of that engine. I need you guys, and y'all have heard me say this a jillion times before, but I need you to understand the reasoning why there's a lot of folks that don't necessarily like the H6. The Ram is soon to come out with this engine, and if I didn't have all the electrical issues and all the build quality issues with Stormy, I might have waited to trade that truck in on an H6 truck. But here's the problem that I have. The specific output of that engine is higher than the Demon 170 when the Demon 170 is on E85. And I need that to hold a little bit of gravity for you. 550, 540 at this stage of the game, it doesn't matter. Horsepower out of 3 liters is equivalent to a 6 liter making 1100 or 1080, whatever. It's the same thing, horsepower. It add, a 0.2 to that. You get the idea. We're starting to it looks a lot like a 1200 horsepower equivalency here. And it's doing it on 93 octane. So here's the thing. That's on 2 bar of boost. 2 bar is 2 atmospheres. In other words, it's 30 pounds of boost. Now, it's doing it extremely efficiently. A 3 liter dual overhead cam engine, um, it's set up the way that it is, 180, 200 horsepower, basically it's tripling its NA power, or at least what you may assume that its NA power would be. Camshaft profiles and things like that come into play here. But I guess where I'm going with this is it is taking so much boost to make that number. And it's making a boost number, again, that a lot of tuners for the Ford EcoBoost platforms and other platforms really start to kind of get a little sketched out at when it comes to their own platforms. Again, I get it. One has, aside from one's an engine and one's also another engine, they both run on gasoline or whatever. That's the only thing that they share in common. And I get that, guys. I do. But and I also understand that it's been doing just fine in the Grand Wagoneer, but that's in the Grand Wagoneer and not in an environment where it is going to be, I guess, beaten on the way that these cars are. So, again, I'm left a little bit. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm left with a little bit of trepidation with that engine and that combination. Not that listen, this thing was engineered and it's been through the testing, and I get all of that, but there's a long-term test that I don't know that it's actually been able to go through. You got use, misuse, and abuse. And I don't know what level of abuse a Grand Wagoneer really gets. I mean, they don't spend their time making 130 or 140 mile an hour hits. I mean, they might have a 0 to 60 run or something like that, and that's great, but guys are going to be running quarter mile times with these things. They're going to be doing draggy hits. They're going to be blasting this thing, and at 30 pounds of boost, in the way that some of these knuckleheads drive, on off throttle and all this other stuff, the head gaskets are going to get the ass whooped. So I don't know, looking into that a little bit, but we'll see. The other thing about that engine is, and I don't understand this to save my life, why is that combination not flex fuel? Why is it not capable of running on E85? I mean, that 540, 550 horsepower could, on accident, be 700 horsepower on E85, if that's where we're coming from. And I'll put it to you like this: if 540, 550 boosted on 2 bar of boost, with no other no timing, no anything, just proper fueling, would probably pick up somewhere around 15%. So, I'm looking at, another 75, 80 horsepower just by throwing E85 into the mix. And now you've got a car that, depending on the weight, because it's going to be light, that's a low 10-second, high 9-second car there. Just saying. And the weight plays a huge factor. And this is where another thing comes into play. A lot of folks are concerned about what the EV is going to weigh. It's going to be a pig. It's going to be heavy. They're all heavy, though, guys. And none of these EVs are lightweights. What about the H6 car? From my understanding, that thing is supposed to check in like around 4,000 pounds, maybe even 3,900 pounds. Is that right? What that would mean is it's coming in at least 250 to 350 pounds lighter. That's not a bad place to start. I would like to see 400 pounds lighter. I'd like to see it somewhere maybe in that Mustang range, but the Coyote's already an all aluminum engine. There's just a lot going on, in terms of trying to lose weight, and you add to that an all-wheel drive system. I don't know, but here's what I can tell you. I don't know diddly tits about the car side of this and what all's involved in the platform, but if you look at the trucks, guys, I just recently weighed my F-150 crew cab 4x4 with a freaking 5-liter Coyote versus Stormy, which is a 2-wheel drive quad cab, so lighter platform than Dodge's crew cab. and both of them with a full tank of gas. They both have the same size gas tank. And the Ford was, even with the Ford having the heavy ass, big ass rubber floor mats and two sets of of impact sockets in it, if that counts. I mean, it does. It's still weight, right? About 10 pounds. That thing still was 20 pounds lighter than the Dodge, guys. So, I mean, look, hey, here's another way to look at it. You know, we're talking about aluminum bits and bobbles and stuff like that. Well, how does weight factor into all this? The Raptor R is freaking what, like 500 pounds or whatever the number is, less than the TRX. I mean, what the hell just flew up my face? Think about that for just a second. That's a lot of freaking weight. You know, I used to say if you could pick it up and throw it, then it really doesn't matter in terms of how the car is going to run, like a before or after. But if the cumulative amount of things that you can pick up and throw, it adds up to something that you can't, well, now you've affected performance. Well, guys, it takes a whole lot of stuff that you can throw to add up to freaking 400 pounds, guys. That's a bunch of weight. So anyway, there's that. But and then the only other video that I've got, like, kind of trying to put together is comparing Buffy to Whitey Ford. So, and the reason why I want to talk about that is I don't want this to turn into, you know, some Ford F-150 tongue bath once I start doing whatever I do with the F-150, because I need to have it anchored to Buffy. Because I got to tell you guys something, and this is just some behind the scenes stuff. My DS Ram is heavier than Stormy was by about, what was it, 100 and something pounds. Forget what the final number was. Anyway, Buffy, which is a DS Ram stripped down, was heavier than my DT Ram in Stormy. Long story short, my Buffy feels faster though, and it always felt faster, even if the empirical data would disagree with that. I'm sorry, but I'm not letting the truth ruin a good story. And in this case, I'm not going to let facts ruin a great truck. My Buffy, which, by the way, now has 190 something thousand whole ass miles on it. Whether on paper, whether on a draggy or at a drag strip, whether it would get walked like to the tune of a freaking truck length and a half at the top of the track, it still always felt better. It still always felt like it ran better than my DT Ram, and it always left me wondering, WTF, mate? And here's the other thing. Even when I duplicated Stormy's tune in terms of transmission tuning, timing, and stuff like that, DT Ram never acted the same. Throttle settings, throttle clips, everything. I got bored one night, it's raining its ass off, and wife smoking hot went to bed early one night, and so I'm like, oh, well, let me play around with this. Put together a tune that would have basically, you know, put it in a state of exactly the same as Buffiness, and Buffy still ran better than or felt like it ran better than Stormy did, and it was just hysterical. And so for as long as I will have Buffy, I'll still have a Mopar in the family, and it will actually be the one that I like driving the most. Isn't that weird? I still can't understand it, and I still can't explain it away how the heaviest of the group, Tradesman, stripped down, will run the way that it does with mileage on it that, you know, it's nearing 200,000 miles, and it still runs. It runs better today than the day that I picked it up. I don't get it, guys. So really, you know, have a nice Ford, but find you a Buffy, because they are freaking awesome trucks. And you know, what would be cool as hell, I wonder if I can do, if I could make this happen, but if I could keep once it comes time to actually get a get rid of that truck, if I can buy it from the company for like pennies on the dollar, in that case that'd be pretty sweet. But that would be the only Dodge truck that I would be even remotely even thinking about buying, would be to just buy Buffy and drive it until it throws a rod and then do a Hellcat swap on it or something like that. That would probably be what I would do to that truck. But that would be if that was even would ever be an option. So anyway, let me check in with you guys. Before I do that though, the whole reason why I was even bringing up Buffy and saying I don't want this to turn into like a Ford just makeout session. I kid you guys not. I kid you guys not. That Buffy feels like it's faster than the Ford too, and it's not. It is abso-flip-dang-it-lutely not. But I will tell you, just driving it, partial throttle response, the way that it just kind of gets here and there, it feels like it's faster than the Ford, which it is absolutely not. Again, draggy for draggy, park them next to each other. That Ford would, not even know that Buffy was back there, but to drive them back to back, there are times where the Dodge just feels better to drive. And this, I want one thing to be really clear here. This is where power, one of the main reasons why I'm not big into power is because the more power you have, the more power you need to be satisfied with the power that you've got. It's weird. If I were to give you a 200 horsepower car and then give you a 300 horsepower car, it'd freak you out. But if I gave you a 400 horsepower car, you wouldn't be as shocked. And while you're driving around in your 400 horsepower car, if I gave you a 500 horsepower car, it wouldn't seem that far removed from where you're at. RT versus Scat Pack, for example. So you can see where this is going, but this is just such a weird thing for me. I don't get too deep into power because it's the driving experience all the way around. And again, I can't figure out why. And by the way, the only real maintenance I've ever done to Buffy is oil changes, period. It's got 200,000 miles on it damn near. And the only reason why it had a coolant flush is because a water pump let go. All right. That's kind of where we're at with this truck. Still has the same spark plugs in it, same fuel pump. I had the Hemi tick that got taken care of under warranty. What else? What else has it? That's it. And it even has, I think it's got a lifter going out on it, because if I let it sit for any real length of time, it sounds like somebody's in there trying to escape with a hammer. But the thing just keeps on running, and it runs good too. So anyway, just my observations on that. Sovereign is in. Skids, what's up? Got the flexes for you guys. Viaga Sub B, are you going to supercharge your truck? I don't know. I've been thinking about that. It's not going to happen anytime real soon. I've got to recover a little bit from that purchase, but it is an option. It's an option as opposed to putting a like a 2018 and up Mustang GT intake manifold on that truck. If I were to do that, it would pick up about 25 or 30 horsepower over where it sits now. And it's relatively inexpensive, and it's not that hard to tune it. And the point to that, it would actually give it a more realistic power output, like a better power band. But as far as, am I going to supercharge it? The thought has crossed my mind. I'll just leave it at that. Lime's in. Hey, B, DM, what's up, man? Sovereign saying, what's up, folks? Sovereign saying, you got a new truck? Yes, I did. DM, hello. I had an 09 with that same engine, and I loved it. This is why I got another Ford. Oh, Queen's is saying, I love it as Honda. Nice. Oh, Sovereign had to check out. Skids, did the guy who named the incoming Stealth get the nod to name the i6 the six-pack? Man, this is another, God, such a crazy thing, man. I know. we'll call it the six pack because it's six cylinders and it's packed full of goodness there, isn't it? This is, God damn it. You know how this would go down, right? It's like, Aspen, what do you feel about the name six pack for the new six cylinder Charger? Because Charger is like a double entendre type of thing because it's a car name, but it's also the name of the thing that you plug into it. The Charger. And it's like, well, Telluride, I have to tell you that I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that just really harkens to it. And, it really goes to like the working man because it's like Joe six pack, but it's like a six pack of beer. And you can have a six pack, but don't have a six pack and drive. Oh, Aspen, you're such a card. That's the kind of shit. That stuff's going on in that boardroom. So anyway, I get it. I get it. I hate it. It drives me nuts. You don't have to come up with a cute little fart smelling name for these things. But it's out there and I'll use it. If it wants to call itself six pack, then I'll call it six pack. Fine, whatever. We'll just, and the thing is it could have been something different, right? It could have been just, hurricane, it's something cool, right? Like you can't really use typhoon because that's already been used. You can't really use cyclone. So I guess we got to go with hurricane because that's the next nearest thing, but I don't know, man. Just, I don't know. Something different. The six pack thing, it's like it writes itself. No, it doesn't. It's cringy in the fact that it's not, it's just not funny. It just isn't funny. It's cringe. It's not, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too much of a gatekeeper when it comes to that, but I just don't, because there's some kid that's like, six pack, fuck, cool, man. I'm like, shit, I don't want to take the joy away from somebody by pointing out just how lame the name is. Anyway, get back to you guys. Patrick, for drag strip weight loss, what's a good idea for a temporary sunroof delete that doesn't involve spending a boatload of money? Don't. I've proven over and over again that a sunroof car versus a non-sunroof car, there's no difference in ET. There's on these cars that weigh as much as they do, saving 30 pounds is just not going to do any good. So, I don't know, man. A piece of sheet aluminum, I mean, you could probably get away with that if you really want to be like honest to goodness looking to do some kind of a deleter, but don't, man, I wouldn't even sweat it, brother. Again, we've proven over and over and over again that weight, unless we're talking about legit weight differences like 110, 120, 130 pounds on a Challenger, don't let it mess you up, bro. I'm gonna sad you. Yo, what's up, man? Itches in. Good evening, sir. Hope all is well. Sovereign is back. Saying, I see how I can make us Gen Xers excited. Always love the general. So that part hits in the 80s. Cold War kid thing. I'm going to hold judgment until I see one in person, possibly drive it. Yeah, my thing is this: 6-cylinder turbo, 4-cylinder turbo, dual overhead cam turbo, lighter weight, smaller rippers. Guys, you got to remember there's a whole world of us that got into hot rodding. I mean, our dads had V8s and crap like that. Sweet, but there's a whole crew of us that were faster or equally as fast with 4 cylinders, no boost, and lightweight front wheel drive stuff. And I'm telling you, fellas, don't. This is one of those things. If you've got a V8 and you're just American V8, listen. It's okay, fine, but there's some alleyways you just don't need to be walking back into. And there's a whole lot of guys on the import side back in the day that were putting together some hairy shit. And they were naturally aspirated. So, and again, to bring you guys up to speed, I got my very, very, very early start in tuning on the import side with Turbo Integra stuff that ran mid to low 9s and 8-second passes with gutted Integras front wheel drive stuff. 650 to 750 horsepower to the wheels, and that's all you needed to run deep into the nines. So there's that. Horsepower is relative for sure. Some are saying he doesn't care if the EVs are faster. I still rather have the six pack. It's more convenient. EVs are inconvenient as hell. Yeah, they are. Slow charge time, charge availability, having to plan your trips. Yeah, no thanks. And no thanks for me too. Guys, look, EVs, it's funny. Somebody had mentioned in one of the comments, it was one of these real long-winded comments. And by the way, if you ever see me say good info, if that's my response to a comment, what that usually means is I really don't have time to unpack some of the shit that I'm reading. You're making valid points, but the valid points that you're making are specific and relative and relevant only in a very narrow band. And so that's what good info means. Basically, it's shorthand for me going, oh fuck, I can't even bother I want to get involved with this conversation, but I can't, because you're right, but you're not right in the broader broader brush perspective. Skizzy, electric ones are supposed to be 5,900 pounds, so the King Dick Banshee better damn well make 1,200 horsepower. Isn't that the truth? Yeah, if it's going to run anywhere near a Plaid, it better. Well, the Plaid's heavy, though. Plaid's what, 4,800? Summer says cars are too heavy. Yep. The Wolf, look at the current M3i6 twin turbo, all-wheel drive, 9s on piggybacks, tune, and E30 mix on the street. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and I'll take that a step further. It's an i6. Yeah, it's 3-liter, and yeah, it's on corn. And that's the whole part of that. I mean, there's going to be some piggyback controllers that'll work. I'm just kind of rocking back and forth going, I can't wait for somebody to do it. But it's got to be lighter weight. If this thing, look, if that car checks in at 4,600 pounds, I don't know that it could, one of the six-pack cars. That would be a complete fail, right? So we got to start off, let's set some boundaries here. If it came in at 3,600 pounds, it would be a riot, right? Yeah, so somewhere in the middle, like that 3,900 pound to 4,000 pound, I just don't want to see it go past 4,000 pounds. I can't. You can't let that slide because you've got an all aluminum 6-cylinder. I don't know. I don't want to see it be any. I would like it to not be much more than 4,000 pounds, but we'll see. It's good saying I'm with Sovereign, not a player on an electric. Oh, what happened? It's all heavy and your tires are going to wear out fast, especially if it's an EV, because you're always going to have it. You have your foot in it. All those tires won't be cheap. Nope, Skids, heavy as hell for sure. Marco, you left us. Get a regular cab. I haven't left yet. I still have Buffy. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd do a regular cab. I like having the extra room. And there's with a quad, there's really no honest to goodness weight penalty to have a quad. So I mean, there's a little, I'm sure, but it's not all there. I know that there can also be some issues with, I don't know, any of the trucks can have issues with drive shafts, but I like the quads and I've had a lot of fun with mine. Like I say, it's going to be a tough day when I've got to turn Buffy in. DM's asking, how does Buffy feel versus Sierra? Buffy would stomp a mud hole in Sierra. By the way, Sierra is gone. I sold Sierra. But Sierra was punchier. Sierra was punchier in certain circumstances, but it just didn't have the horsepower up top. It's torquey as hell. Don says, that's why I love 392 gears and the cool weather. Today feels so quick. Must get that draggy. You got to get a draggy. Sorry, saying tsunami. Sure. Yeah. It just don't call it a sick. There's got to be a, I don't know. The Hornet is already taken. The Hornet would have been a cool name for that car, though. But Dodge has been just godly, just ripping defeat from the jaws of victory when it comes to naming things. The Stealth is some kind of minivan thing or whatever. The Hornet is what it is. I still can't believe that they did that. I don't know. I just, oh God, it just, the Hornet is such a not doing anything vehicle. It would have been a cool name. Anything insect related, because it's got 6 legs and it flies. Hey, there's 6 cylinders and it flies. It's a Hornet, I don't know. There's ways to play with this and there's ways to be creative. So that's kind of the way I would look at it, but I don't know. That's just me being more of an enthusiast, though, where if you're not an enthusiast, then the name is, it's kind of neat, oh, it makes sense, all that. But I'm sorry. I just, it carries a little cringe. Oh, Sovereign, dodge on dodge tsunami. I like it. Tsunami. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Hurricane 6 could. You definitely do that. DM. Almost say most underrated channel out there. I'm 22 and have a few Mustangs, but dude, it's so rare to find someone out here that's actually knowledgeable and unbiased. Thank you for the content. Thank you for hanging out with me, man. I appreciate it. It comes from a whole lot of years of having a whole lot of different vehicles and being involved with a lot of different types of racing, whether it's been, it could have been autocross. It could have been closed circuit, a lot of drag racing, a whole lot of street racing, a whole lot of roll racing at one point in my career, both with motorcycles and with cars. Imports, domestic stuff, a little bit of everything. I had my 2 vets, the car. I'll tell you what, my C5 Z06, I used to go sniping after Hellcats with that car for roll races, and that was just an NA LS6. I kind of wore out my welcome with that car. So I'm saying Hurricane Inline 6, the new CUDA. You could get away with the CUDA. What was the Aussie? Was there a name for the Aussie Inline 6 Hemi? So what you guys may not know is in Australia, they had, and other markets maybe too, but I know the Aussies had it. They had Inline 6 Hemi that the guys over there really used to like to hot rod the hell out of that thing. And I think they would bump it up to like 350 something horsepower. I mean, it was a proper hot rod engine, and in the, whatever they had it in, it was a lot lighter than the V8s. And so you're like, oh, it's just a 6, mate. Like, yeah, 6 will push your shit in, bro. Get ready. And that apparently back in the day was a pretty hot setup for the street racing scene over south of the equator. So definitely some cool shit there. But name it after that thing, or I mean, there's so many options, I'm sure. But they've been squandered or pissed away because they just didn't have, the foresight to know that they were going to have something like this. I really would. I mean, I would pull names out of the Cold War hat, though. I would start dragging out names like Starion. The thing is they need to stop anchoring their cars to legacy names and legacy vehicles, for that matter. It harkens back to the 1968 Charger. Who the fuck cares? Guys, I'm sorry, but 1968 was, in relative terms, an entire lifetime ago. Okay? The people that were alive that could buy that car brand new in 1968 have been dead for a decade in most cases. Like, statistically, on a bell curve speaking, they are gone. Not that that's a bad thing, and it's okay to bring up the past, but you've got the youth of the 80s and 90s that you're looking at now. Bring something into the fold that these guys can now have as their own, because we've had look at this bald, gray-faced mother talking to you, have our dad's cars shoved down our throats now our entire lives. The cool cars were cars that bucked the trend. The cool cars were cars that were kind of crappy, but just happened to be sort of kind of fast. Dodge 600 Turbo, Dodge Spirit. You had the Omni, the Daytona, the Conquest, the Starion. You had all of these, and you'd start going down the list. The 300, you had the Stealth, you had the Probe from Ford, the stuff that was fast in its own right, the stuff that would hold its own and sometimes and many times beat its rival with some double the cylinders. These are the types of cars, and these are the types, at least, of the nameplates that we need to see again. Again, I'm tired of having my old man's car shoved down my throat the way that I have since I was born. There's nothing like displacement, no replacement. Yeah, there is. It's a big replacement. It's called boost. And when you look at RPM, and when you start to see what we were doing with these things way back in the day, and when the guys that were talking to me and teaching me how to do this were really getting fired up and getting into those types of cars, I mean, it opened up a whole new world for a whole group of people. And so to bring back those storied nameplates that, by the way, have a shitload of street cred. And this is, again, I mean, this is where it really works out well. You know what would be a great name? The Talon. The Eagle Talon. That would be awesome. Bring back the Talon nameplate. Bring back something badass. The cars that we knew that were down like on Main Street USA for us would have been Center Street, Westheimer, Rankin. You had Hobby Airport, Bush Intercontinental out in those areas. You had Out West. You had the Northsiders. You had all of these guys that would meet up, and it was awesome, dude. It was back in the day. There was a lot of killer street races. You had the guys that would run from a dig. You had the group of us that were all roll race guys. It was so much fun, dude. And there was a lot of interplay between us. Man, it was cool. But the Talon was disgusting to deal with. All-wheel drive, 4-cylinder turbo with nitrous, different turbos, a little bit of work here and there. It was a freaking 9-second car, and it was all-wheel drive, and that biatch would run low tens on the street. A lot of these guys did it for as long as they would hold together. With these JDM cars that made it to the party, the Japanese domestic cars, or Japanese domestic markets, and the gray import cars, the DSM, the Diamond Star cars, those were all awesome contraptions, and it just sucks perineum that they wouldn't have the understanding and the foresight to put that together for us. That's the crazy part. So anyway, let me get to you guys here. Sorry, let me feel your steak, or whatever it is that they say in that freaking commercial. That's the worst. Like, stab me with your proboscis or whatever they're saying. I can't remember what he says. Let's get inside Tonala in person. I haven't seen one. I haven't seen them at all. The Dodge Dingbat. I wouldn't doubt it. Joseph saying hello. Marco's saying 6'4", 392 gears with a regular cab. That's a real popular setup. A lot of guys love it. 6'4" with either no cam or a small cam. I would almost want a 6'4" with a stock cam just for the drivability, because, I mean, okay, I'll take the extra 25 or 30 horsepower, but God, the 6'4" is such a snappy engine, and in a truck, it would be awesome to play with. Oh, it's not a DEI. You're talking about the white one. That's Shoei. That's SHOEI. It says You can see it right there, SHOEI around the back. It's a helmet box. It's right next to that Bell helmets box too. Sovereign, yeah, the Spirit would be another cool one to bring back. Absolutely. Twin Timba style, I like it. Marco's saying, what? The best V8 engine for NA build? For an NA build? Ah, shoot, man. I mean, it all depends on what you want to do, and what your budget is. What are you building? For a street car, for a true build, LS is the easiest to make really decent power. It's not a problem to do that. If you are wanting something that's going to be an overall just really strong running and it's going to be a manual transmission, Coyote would be my first pick, just because you wouldn't have to really do anything to it. An exhaust, maybe a cold air intake, but mainly in tuning. And E85, that thing is a nightmare to have to deal with, just in the terms of you don't have to do anything to it. The Hemi, the problem with the Hemi is fantastic, but again, it just depends on what you're going to be building. If I'm building like a regular cab short bed NA truck, I would probably do a 392 in that combination and rip with that. Road test is in. Hey, be good to see the guys that own 340 and 446 pack cars are likely saying, TF, mate. That's right. With Dodge diluting the 3x2 two-barrel history with the new i6, not against the twin turbo 6, but 6-pack. I know. And I didn't really want to dive too deeply into the 6-pack, deal with that. But, yeah. I know. And the thing is the history of it, there's nothing that would tie the 6-cylinder to 6-pack. That's the big thing. You immediately think of the engine, though, if you call it a 6-pack. It's easy to forget the history of those cars and why they did so well. And that was a street cred, like that. If you had a 6-pack, the Mopar triple deuce intake manifolds were really, really, really good. Some were not. The GM stuff weren't all that great, but the 6-pack intakes were really good. And they had race history, they had a race pedigree, streetwise. And so, but yeah, the problem is when you say 6-pack, the first thing that a lot of people are going to think of is it's a 6-cylinder. Oh, it's a 6-cylinder. It's not going to mention anything about 6-pack. Like, oh, this has, what's a 6-pack? Oh my goodness. What does that even mean? Is that like they had 6 cylinders? They had like 6 gears or something? It's just, I get it, but it is an issue because 6-pack immediately leans you towards the engine because you know that it's a 6-cylinder. But good, very, very good point. Oh yeah, 68 was a great year. It's my favorite Charger. Joseph, yeah, born in 67, so yes, 68 was a lifetime ago for sure. But that's the point. I mean, we've got to have, like, for perfect example of this, Joseph. So born in 68, in 1988, Joseph would have been 20 years old, just kind of coming into his own, knowing what car stuff is. Might have picked up on the wave of these Mopars at the time with the direction that Mopar was going. Mopar was on the front end. It really was the point of the spear when it comes to what could have been. And listen, if it were not for the technology that made the 4 cylinders and the 6-cylinder NA cars so strong, you wouldn't have the V8s today. The V8s were already well on their way out by the time they got that shot in the arm from engineering, who had been working trying to get small engines to make big power. They said, well, we can do that with a little engine, we can do that with a big engine, and they did. Engine management. Next thing you know, here we are. You got LT 350s that are finally making real power, where before the V8 was nothing more than a very low RPM maker of noise that would just simply move something out of its own way. Now they were making real power again. Dodge Spirit RT, let's do it. Joseph, when was the 73 Mustang Grande cool? Probably started being cool again about 2 years ago, when some of those obscure Malaise era cars started really pulling in some obnoxious numbers. Some of the little K car that could. Yep. Talon Laser was another one. That's right, Skids. Good call. So I would say, yeah, the Wraith concept car had 450 out of a four banger. Yes, it did. And it hauled ass for sure. Skids was scared to type how much in love I was with the Coronet 68 or 69, worried it would be in this next electric BS Balant. Well, so yeah, I mean, watch out for the next Coronet. I mean, they would probably do that. Think of the mindset if they gravitated and even remembered that Coronet or Savoy are names they could pull from. Savoy, that sounds like something that you would get at Finelli's. Like, yes, can I get a Savoy? But on the side, can I get like a sprig of kale and some, when you get a chance, just a side of vinaigrette? That would be nice. Yeah, thank you. What are you having? I'm having the Savoy. Yes, it's very good here. I'm telling you, that's about what they would know about Savoy. Savoy. So that's funny. It's like Savoy. Savoya es en español an onion. So, yeah, the new Dodge Onion. By the way, if you don't, I don't speak Spanish, but I'm around it enough to where I can rattle off some stuff. But yeah, the Savoy was always kind of fun for me. No, me no gusta la Savoy. DM say maybe an HOI6 all-wheel drive Dodge Shelby CSX would help Dodge. Yeah, they need to do something. Sorry, yeah, the Coronet's a damn good looking car. Not saying not that crazy about the 70. I end up getting wrapped into the C-body stuff myself. I like the really big, obnoxious two-door stuff. Lime saying, oh, the 6-cylinder Hemi was a Valiant Charger. I bring back the Valiant name. That's a good one. 68 was the sweet spot for sure. Lots of good cars came out in 68. A lot of body changes hit the road in 68. You had the Corvette with the Mako body style. You had the Charger with its new body style. God, there were quite a few that hit in 68. 68 was a banner year for cars. Joe saying, first Mopar 73 Charger with a 318. Hook for life. That's a fun car. Daytona Pufferfish. 68 Nova, yep. All of them were good, for sure. 69 Fury is really nice. I'm a big fan of the mid-century Furies, like the Sport Fury. Those were pretty badass. You know, I came so close on several occasions to building a clone of a super stock Dodge. Free range Savoy. Is Probe the worst name of all time? I don't know, buddy. Depends on the fence you're riding. GMO free Savoy. Pretty much, fellas. Hey, guys, listen. I'm coming up on an hour. I have got to wrap it up. But listen, thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out. Would not do this without you. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, Dodge Karen. With that, guys, I will catch y'all on the next one. Y'all have a great one. Adios.